I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zias Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark.
Thanks.
With that sneeze, we welcome you to...
No, real intro, really.
What?
You
Okay.
were the one who messed us up in the first place by playing Arcane Mark in 2 tabs.
Okay.
Alright, fine. Zathos wants to stand.
Yeah. See, everyone likes it. Alright, so that's our real intro. And we're here with Build a Settlement Workshop 2, Full Build a Settlement Workshop. So, if you watched the first Build a Settlement Workshop, then you know that we built like some kind of aquatic settlement that has like a part that's under the water and a part that's on land, and they have a whole bunch of different people and weird things that are going on there. So now it's time to build another settlement. So there's a lot of information that we're going to wind up sort of learning about this settlement as we go along with the Build a Settlement Workshop. But it's kind of important that we start, just like with everything else, with a concept. Because if we don't do that, then we're just going to have these random pieces. Like we started with settlement name and alignment, then who knows what's going to happen. So does anyone have an idea for a basic concept for the settlement first? And it'll evolve as we wind up adding in some of the other pieces of information that we need.
We have an idea. Put a landlocked galleon way inland with no obvious reason for how it got there.
All right, that is our first settlement idea.
Underwater tourist trap, but not the kind that kills you.
A kingdom that trades with the outer sphere is also on the list.
Landlocked galleon.
And by kingdom, we mean a settlement, because not build a nation workshop, but still.
No.
On the moon, says Steven.
Alright, so then number 2 was.
So we've got the landlocked galleon.
Tourist.
And we've got underwater tourist trap.
We've got our
settlement that trades with the outer sphere. And we've got a
trades with the outer sphere.
And settlement on the moon.
Settlement on the moon.
Yep. That's what we got so far. And then like Rico had some more ideas for the landlocked galleon. Alright, a lot of people like being on the moon. Okay. Any other general settlement concepts, or shall we... oh, here we go. A mountaintop haven of invention.
Mountaintop. We're doing Again, we are doing build a settlement this time, not build a nation. Let's see. Mountaintop haven of invention.
Invention.
For
science! Alright, so let's see what we've got.
Shall we... And do we have a 6th idea? Or are we going to go through with this?
Alright. I think we're voting with these 5.
So pick your favorite.
Pick one. There's only 5 after all. Alright. So Linda, 4, 4, 4.
4, 4 is a 1, a 3, a 5th 4, a 3.
Yeah.
2 1s, 2.
Alright. If you look at that over there, I need to quickly remind myself about the alien jungle on the light side of Galarian's moon.
And there's some comments that that 4 and 3 could combine if the settlement on the moon also trades with the outer sphere.
Mm-hmm. Alright. So, that is possible. But, let's see. We've got way more 4s.
Mm-hmm.
But there probably is going to be some amount of shenanigans with the outer sphere because there's so much abyssal stuff going on in the moon.
Ularge said, Umbra Cygots / Summel Cygots could be a mode of transportation.
Alright. That is a one last thing before Ular's heading out. So we will keep that in mind. All right, so we're doing it on the moon. So keep this in mind about Golarian's moon, which is, and I'm assuming this is like vaguely appropriate for the Golarian setting, even though like we didn't specify with our underwater-ish settlement like where it would be, but we also didn't use anything that like flatly flies in the face of it. So therefore, we're gonna do the moon, a moon thing that would be vaguely appropriate if it was gonna be there, and that means
Umbra Sagots are they're introduced in Starfinder, and their it looks like their historical name was named after Golarian's moon. So. They are large predatory territorial flatworms that make their home in airless environments.
Well, we don't know for sure if they were around before the gap, but it could be interesting, especially if they were known to have been on Golarian's moon as well. So we've got the moon, and it absolutely is not like our moon because it has some areas that have atmospheres. So, first of all, there's the City of the Faceless, which is an ancient Azlanti prison in the northern hemisphere on the dark side. And it had, like, atmospheric bunkers and magical machines where the Azlanti just kind of like, I guess, like Australia is to Britain, the moon is to Azlant. Where they were just a bunch of people there, and, but they eventually became, like, not prisoners because Azlant was gone, and they just kind of lived there. And then there's these moon dungeons that are beneath Golarian's moon that are explored by people from the City of the Faceless. And maybe the reason that the Azlanti established their colony there in the first place. And it's possible there's some really cool stuff down there that they found. And then there's also the Moonscar, an alien jungle on the light side of the moon, inhabited by a family of half-succubi sisters who have lived there for 12,000 years.
That's pretty intense.
They are all descended from a single succubus ancestor and are generally content to rule their city and occasionally raid or demand tribute from the other pocket ecologies of the moon. These ageless creatures sometimes travel to Golarian via magical flight, a trip that takes 2 years to abduct humanoids and return with them to the Moonscar.
That was an adventure.
Whoa, there's a lot going on in the moon, is what we're saying here. So this is gonna be a settlement that can be on the moon. So I guess what we have to decide is, are we going to like make a non-canonical more information about this City of the Faceless, the Azlanti prison that became a city, and just like flesh it out in a hypothetical way? Are we gonna make our own moon settlement with blackjack and, you know what, forget about the moon settlement? So what do people think?
Well, the Somos Sagots were totally around in first edition. They were in Bestiary 5.
There we go. Yeah, I thought they were.
Yeah.
So that name sounded familiar.
But the other name was
the other name was the Starfinder name. That makes sense.
That's what. Yeah, and that's why they were presented with the slash and stuff like that.
Yes, that makes sense.
We're a galleon that someone made it to the moon in portals to specifically trade items through.
Are they whalers of the moon who carry a harpoon?
Well, we did have a harpoon in one of our previous.
Yes, who carried that particular
harpoon.
Carried
that particular harpoon,
and they sing a whaling tune.
So there's an idea that this could be some kind of a trading post.
Mm-hmm. There's got to be water there, if there's a jungle, but it's kind of unclear to me exactly what the situation is. So like clearly they built a city with bunkers, with atmospheres, with magical machines at first, but then also the there's the Moonscar, which clearly has its own air. So I probably would do better off if I looked in Distant Worlds. They probably have an explanation of like maybe some of the moon has atmosphere and some doesn't, or at one point it didn't have atmosphere and then it did. let's see. So there's a lot of good ideas for possibilities for an additional moon settlement. Meanwhile, I can download Distant Worlds. It's probably faster than finding our hard copy of it.
It probably is.
And because we have now drained, I think, all the information that exists. Oh, wait. No, maybe not. Maybe not. Let's see here. Moon.
You're on the same page I am in.
Yes. Somal. Galarian's moon. It doesn't really have... it's tidally locked. And... it mentions the forest again, which we saw from the other pages about the areas. But there's nothing else. Alright, so let's see if Distant Worlds
Atmosphere
has
says none except in pockets in the Moonscar.
Oh, okay. That explains it. So I was thinking that it sounded like there were only pockets of atmosphere in the Moonscar. Yeah. So if that's the case, then the bodies of water would be in the Moonscar. And everywhere else would have to have bubbles like the City of the Faceless.
Well, if they're trading with the outer sphere, then maybe they have like a portal to the plane of water, and that's how they have water.
That is also a possibility. Let's see if the moon is... where would the moon be? Oh, here's the moon. Oh, I see. The Galarian section almost exclusively talks about the moon. Because of the fact that it is... anything else on Galarian, you wouldn't be going to Distant Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like it was broken off in a massive meteor, and then the Aslanti came a really long time ago, like we were saying before, very entitled, and subjugated the moon.
The Aslanti are often entitled.
But then they accidentally created the Moonscar because, whoops, the Abyss. And that's the part that has weird magic and scattered network of unconnected ecosystems that are there, and the rest of the moon is bereft of life or air, like Linda was saying. It still has low gravity, like you might expect. The Moonstar is lush, steamy biome that would almost be idyllic if it wasn't for the Abyssal Masters and Twisted Monsters residence. And it looks like...
and the third category is pockets.
Yes. And third category is pockets, which are...
created by the uncontrolled backlash of Aslanti magic and abyssal energies.
They defy scientific laws, containing any number of environments from tiny tropical seas a few miles wide to vast Arctic snowfields. Oh, so maybe one of ours
is a pocket.
And it's in a it's like a beach town on the moon, in one of those pockets. And it says their residents are very it even mentions that they range from small animals to stunted villages.
People with insectile heads.
Fearful tribute to the rulers of the Moonscar. Not necessarily evil, but they are often insular or paranoid and could be hostile. So, there we go.
But this one's a little different, right? It's not insular, because they're...
That's right.
Because they're
involved. That's what just some of them are. So, ours could be like a beach... some kind of a beach town on the moon or something like that. Maybe like a resort town on the moon, where it's like you go here and hang out on the moon, and they trade with
it still makes more sense than the beaches in SpongeBob.
Fair enough. I don't really know much about SpongeBob.
Oh well, SpongeBob has like undersea beaches, and yes, I know it's like a denser substance that's not water that would have to be. But anyway, SpongeBob aside, sounds good. So we are in a pocket on the moon.
We are in a pocket on the moon. All right.
Which means we've got a lot of freedom about how we define the environment here.
That's right. So, we're in a pocket on the moon, and
this allowed us to be, with the king part out, this allows us to be mysteriously inland, because is there a random beach?
It's just like a beach with some water, but then as soon as you go past a certain point, the pocket ends, and it's just the moon.
Yes.
So, that is absolutely what this settlement is. And we can come up with a name whenever we feel like it. So, just throughout the process. let's think about what alignment this settlement is. Trippy heard paratoid instead of paranoid. Well, it did talk about some of them being insectile.
Mm-hmm.
Moonface, I see. So what alignment is our settlement for the most part? That doesn't mean everyone is that alignment. So Mass Penguin says maybe they're lawful neutral. Maybe tell us about what's going on.
We have lawful neutral, true neutral, chaotic neutral.
So we know the Abyssal Masters of the Moonscar are chaotic evil, but that doesn't mean this settlement is.
If these are presumably not.
So we've got 2 for lawful neutral, 1 true neutral, 1 chaotic neutral. Merchants.
So I was seeing arguments it's like being chaotic people to live on the moon, and then for the lawful, the argument that they could be trustworthy.
Elftro says lawful neutral merchants. I mean, I guess the Mercane could be involved as well. They are a PF1 lawful neutral extraplanar being that literally is I think the only extraplanar being that is type outsider in PF1 that does not have a subtype.
Yeah. So that
let's
can
see,
get the
chaotic neutral Protean Lord worshippers. Weather King is switching, so we've got 2 for chaotic neutral and 2 for lawful neutral.
Well, what if the settlement as a whole is neutral because they have two
factions of law
because they have
chaos?
A strong chaos faction and a strong law faction.
That makes sense.
So they have a strong lawful neutral traitor faction
and a chaotic neutral paratoid faction.
And a chaotic neutral paratoid faction of
they're like part parrots, and they were one of the weird like creations of the pockets, but they're not as evil as like the full abyssal ones, but they also are very, very chaotic and free-spirited. The paratoids were probably the ones who initially settled here, but the traders kind of moved in and were more lawful.
Free-spirited parrot-featured people.
Yes, and Rico says they're kind of pirate parrots.
Then pirate parrots who most often venerate Protean lords.
All right, so is this like a village, a town, a city, or a metropolis? This place. It feels to me like it's bigger than a village, but smaller than a metropolis for sure. Listen, the parrot code is more like a set of guidelines, okay? So, I think it's not a village or a metropolis, but do people think it's a town or a city? This settlement. Ultra has put an attachment. Demand. It is a copper prize for RBG Superstar. That could be it. Alright, while people are thinking about that, let's see. We've learned a lot about this settlement already. So think about what size it is, as we also think about what is the government structure of the settlement. It seems like that the lawful people may have been the ones who like wanted to set up a more structured government, but like how much are the chaotic and the lawful factions represented in the government? Like, is it a council? That doesn't say. It could be a council that has like that has pirate captains. But what about the lawful faction in the city as well? So there's definitely some merchants, traders, and people who want this to be a vacation spot who. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess it could be interesting if you had a place where the chaotic neutral were also the ones who had, like, pretty much all the say in the government, and the lawful ones didn't.
Well, it could be a council. And if
maybe it's a council overall,
yeah.
Which it started as a pirate council among the pirates of, like, the best pirates. But then the merchant lords also managed to add themselves to the council as well. So they're like considered an honorary captain, and they call them captain even though they have no ship or what have you, because that's just the name of your title if you're on the council, because it was a pirate captain council.
Yeah.
Mass Penguin says they're not allowed to pirate from those from the settlement, so they probably, their piracy is most likely to be on the Moonscar's Abyssal Masters, because it's just it's a ways to get to all the way over to the City of the Faceless, all through the Deadlands, which are not very safe, and there's no air. So it seems like that they pirate against like the demons and the half succubi in the Moonscar, which is pretty interesting, and possibly get resources, because it sounds like that's a lush area with a lot of resources other than the horrible monsters that are there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a council, and you're called a captain, but not everyone is a pirate captain nowadays. We still haven't decided if it's a city or a town. We can keep thinking about that, but we while we're thinking about sort of the population, but honestly, the population is something that is sort of determined by the city or the town. So maybe we'll move on to what languages are spoken here. So I guess if the Gamayun are the parrot people who live here on the moon, that if Gamayun is the name of their language, then Gamayun is maybe the name of their language is Gamayun with no apostrophe, because otherwise I can't put an apostrophe into anything that I write, because I'll have used up
your only apostrophe.
My only apostrophe that every Paizo staff member is allowed to have in their lifetime. Steven can look it up. Maybe they have a language that's not Gamayun. So it's probably.
I will put an apostrophe in here. It doesn't count.
It doesn't count. Okay.
It doesn't count against our. It doesn't count against our limit, because it's not something that we're officially publishing for Paizo.
Well, holy moly! Steven says they have Abyssal, which they would need to know because they're raiding from the Moonscar. So it's almost like they wanted these parrots.
Yeah.
They wanted to cult a mishear parrotoid and then have the parrots raid the Moonscar. They have Abyssal Aran in common. So, and they don't have their own language. So
yeah, Abyssal
so
Aran in common. The settlement
is going to have Abyssal Aran common Protean.
Yes.
And then we need to think about where the lawful people came from. Are they mostly just like they were merchants from everywhere? Are they specifically from Axis? Because if they're from Axis, then they would have the language Utopian.
I want to take a moment to think about Aran here for a moment too, and what this implies to me is that they're drawing some power from the elemental plane of air in order to power their flying airships their flying ships that they use to soar across the moon.
Wait, I think that makes sense, because they get power from the plane of air. It's basically like the ships aren't even just powered by the air. They have like essentially a giant bottle of air from the plane of air that is what allows them to breathe when they go out of their own pocket and towards the other pockets for a short period of time. That's why they have Aran. See, clearly whoever designed this monster knew that they had to live on the moon.
It powers them and lets people breathe.
So people are saying Axis, so we're gonna add Utopian to the mix. So yeah, they have links to the elemental plane of air, and they use their links to the plane of air to just create temporary air pockets. So they fly their airship to another place that actually has air, and it could possibly be able to get them to the City of the Faceless, although the domes that has seem like it would be a pain to deal with, but maybe it's worth it because the Aslanti colony are delving into those dungeons and finding some really good treasures.
Oh, and then there's a good point there, powered by light, so they using solar power.
Yeah, solar powered, that makes sense.
Solar power
here, Steven put the entire thing here about the Gamayun. They are chaotic neutral, so it's the correct alignment. They usually live in treetop jungles, And they are guarding from the jealous clutch of Nocticula, the queen of succubi from 12,000 years ago.
Oh my god, this is perfect.
What the heck? How is this?
This is so perfect.
How is this, like, exactly everything here is correct to be randomly on the moon?
This is perfect.
I just don't understand. And it also said that when Nocticula became not evil is when they became not evil. Which makes sense, because, like, they came in with her from the Abyss, from the Moonscar, and were chaotic evil. And now they are chaotic neutral, because she's no longer evil. And they're now pirating again. Okay. Everything that's in this makes sense for this, and I don't I don't understand why it all makes so much sense. Yes. Rico is officially unsettled by... maybe Nicole actually read that RPG Superstar entry and was... percolating it when she heard Paratoid. I don't even know. And Alftro just definitely knew that they were a good match. So, there we have it. Somehow, this monster, which seems like a superly over-specific monster, is the perfect monster for this settlement. It's just great. This is a very good match. So, religions, we know Nocticula and Protean lords. Well, this is like the settlement with some weird religions, because it's got Nocticula, Protean lords, and Abadar and Primal Inevitables are the four main lists of deities, right? Like, what settlement has those as their four things? Only this one on the moon.
What are the top level inevitables called again?
The Primal Inevitables. Okay. That's right. So that's probably the four main religions. We've got the languages. All right, so what are the threats? We know what the threats are. The threats are like the Moonscar inhabitants, angry Aslanti from City of the Faceless, and denizens of other pockets. And let's figure out if the Samalsigots, let's figure out if those Samalsigots can just go wherever they want on the moon, or not. It looks like they burrow around, but do they have the ability to not breathe? Let's see. They have resistant evolution.
Yes,
yes, they live in space. So Samalsigots could be another threat, because they actually live in the Deadlands too. Yep, Wither King says threats are the darn worms. So those are definitely potentially threats for them. All right. There could be other characteristics that are distinctive. Well, being on the moon. Okay, and so they would definitely have certain settlement abilities, such as the fact that it is a I think that it may have a settlement ability that's like air, law, and chaos. This settlement has strong ties to the plane of air axis and the maelstrom. And so, therefore, probably, like, items with the air, law, or chaotic trait are, of up to 4 levels higher than normal might be, like, accessible to buy it there, because of the connection to those planes.
Yeah.
And as a merchant hub, it might be possible to, like, special order things through the merchants even more easily, even if they were not at the town normally. Stunt Monkey heard Samosa Gods. Well, you know what? Unfortunately, when you misheard something, Stunt Monkey, it was not as somehow like a perfect match for the settlement as when Nicole misheard something. But Samosa Gods are still a good, an interesting thing. But there aren't any, unfortunately. Alright, so we still don't know whether it's a town or a city. Did anybody say anything about that while I was like kind of moving on and continually asking about it? If not, then let's say that it's like maybe it's a very big town.
Yeah, but it could be
the moon.
Yeah.
It's a very big town, and it's higher level than a town normally would be because of the fact that A, it's on the moon. B, it's very dangerous.
So yeah, we have alignment, then government.
So like Otari is a level 4 town, but which is it's on the higher end for a normal town anyway. But this is probably a Wither King says maybe it actually is a small city. I'm okay with that too, because it is like it's a resort / trading place / where all these parrots live. So we can say it's a small city, but that's a higher level than you would expect for a city like that. So that would mean that it is maybe it has to survive here in this abyssal area. So maybe it's a small city, but that is still level like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean that there aren't people who are higher level than that. That just means like that's pretty powerful at that point because you can relatively easily search and find someone who is that level to like cast spells for you and to like make items for you. Yeah, Wither King was saying around 7 or 8. I think it may be even a little higher.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe 9.
All right, let's call it 9 then, because yeah.
Yeah, I think that you probably actually.
Because what level do you need to plane shift? Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't need a million people who can do it. It is a 7th level spell, so it doesn't need to be a level 13 settlement for the plane shifting because only like the one person who's plane shifting needs to routinely be doing that. What level is planar binding and planar ally? Planar binding is a 6th level ritual, and planar ally is a 5th. So if it is level 9, then that means other than the fact that it's uncommon, that planar allies would be something that you could find someone, if this uncommon knowledge has spread, and in this settlement it's a little more commonly known, you could find someone to do a planar ally for you and connect to those other planes. Eltro says there could even be planar rifts or portals that have been created due to the tear into the abyss that created the moon scar. That's possible too. Also, presumably there's at least some NPCs who are capable of a plane shift in our significant NPCs. So let's see. The settlement's name was probably named by the Magayun or Gamayun.
It was probably named by the Gamayun, yeah.
It was probably named by the Gamayun before any of the lawful people came in there, and that means that it probably has a sort of an aesthetic that sounds similar to their own name for themselves, I guess, because the only word we know of that is like something that they've done. Or it could be kind of very abyssal or Aran sounding. We know that Somal is the name of the moon. Akavna is a dead moon goddess that we could use part of her name towards things. So let's keep thinking about a name while we come up with Magai Moon.
What you did there, I see.
Somalyun. Gemi Arby's. So let's think about some of the significant NPCs here. Usually you want like about 3 or 4 that we're going to talk about. So I think we bare minimum, we need at least a significant NPC who's representing the pirates and is a Gamayun NPC. We need a significant NPC who's representing the merchants and is probably not a Gamayun, is lawful. And maybe a third one who is like, is that high-level spellcaster who knows plane shift, who is like one of their best spellcasters in the settlement.
Yeah.
So that's 3 out of 4 already we vaguely have the ideas for, and the 4th one could be almost anything else.
Yeah.
Also, let's see. Wither King says it could be named after a Protean Lord. That's possible. That sounds like Nocticulo is the primary deity of the Gamayun in those days as well. So it could be, like, let's see if there's any interesting names other than just, like, Nocticulaburg. But names that are, like, associated with her. So she's in Midnight's Palette right now. She used to, of course, live in
House of Silken Shadows, in Boundless.
In Illusionera.
There's one of her first for a new realm, Midnight's Palette in the Boundless Azure Ocean of Elysium. The Protean Lords' names are like...
She was in the Midnight Isles
S's
before.
and K's and I's. Silameskik, Ilsurish, Nara Seminek.
Let's see. Yeah, Elftra. We said Abadar is one of the 4 main religions.
Yeah,
Nocticula, Abadar, Protean Lords, and Primal Inevitables.
Alpha suggesting that an Archbanker
could be the NPC with the merchants. That definitely makes sense. Yeah. I think that works. Now the Archbanker could theoretically serve double duty as the person who has plane shift, but it could be interesting if there's also just a separate high level spellcaster. Yeah, I think contracted Nocticula for a good name.
All right, so I think that I think it makes sense to have those 2 be separate as well, because you're probably gonna see more in the arcane level of. Well, I guess some of the contacts are through divine as well, those sorts of spells.
Yes, a lot of them are.
But if the Archbanker has to be focused on being
But anybody can plane shift.
Fair enough. But if the Archbanker has to focus on being the person who's also doing those kinds of transport spells.
Yeah, the Archbanker probably isn't if the Archbanker is
indeed the politician
and the merchant leader and a cleric for the faithful.
One is like trying to make sure to keep track of the money and the
finances
of this
place. Probably can't be like warping off onto other areas.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a pirate and Archbanker who's the merchant representative and a high level spellcaster of some sort.
And maybe a 4th person as well. Maybe the 4th person is someone who. So the 3rd one is sort of this spellcaster who will just like do plane shifts. Maybe the 4th one is someone who like straddles between the 2 worlds and is more about like fighting to defend their home than about making money or from merchants or making money from piracy.
Yeah.
And then that sort of also gives us a cleric, a wizard if the caster is a wizard, a fighter for the defending the home, or like and a rogue for the pirate captain ish.
So like sort of a guard captain type person.
Mm-hmm.
Arbiter's Jump is an interesting name.
Arbiter's Jump. Although that's got the name for a type of inevitable, but it probably wouldn't have been what it was named by the Magayun. It could also be like a nickname for or the Gamayun. I keep saying Magayun because of Magambia, I think, but it's the Gamayun. It could also be like the town has nicknames, just like New York is the Big Apple.
Yeah. And it could be the nickname could be that it's like it has Arbiter in it, but then like the more chaotic people might be like, yeah, it's called Arbiter's Jump because it's where Arbiter people is stuffed up as Arbiters learn to take a leap of faith. Try something new for once.
Yeah, that could be a nickname, and maybe the main name is that was originally called as just some kind of like people were saying in the chat, some kind of like some kind of mix up of different things. So like Somalyun.
Well, that sounds like Somalia.
Oh, it does sound like that.
That's why it sounds like it could be a name of a thing.
Somalyun.
Or it sounds like somewhere between like Somalia and Somalia.
What about Somayun? It's like Gamayun, but with an S-O instead of the G apostrophe. Somayun.
It works?
If we assume that Mayun is like a part of the language of the Gamayun to mean something, and Somal is the moon, then it's a mashup. Mm-hmm. So like Somayun, also known as Arbiter's Jump.
That works.
Alright. That's good. So we've got an Archbanker for the Archbanker of Abadar is one of the significant NPCs. And so we would say, basically, we would give an alignment, and we generally give like an alignment and a gender and an ancestry, and just like a word to describe, which could be Archbanker, and then like a few words where we would say like for instance, we have the Merchant Master and Joint Overseer of Port Peril. This would be like member of the Captain's Council. Lawful. So this is going to be a lawful neutral. So we should pick basically a gender and ancestry for the Archbanker. It's probably not Gamayun.
Yeah.
Whereas for the Gamayun pirate captain is probably like chaotic neutral. We can pick whatever gender. Gamayun pirate captain, who is whose short description would be like the most influential among the Gamayun pirates.
Yeah.
And then, Wither King, you were on fire. You were the one with all the names in the chat, pretty much. And then the caster would be whatever alignment, and we pick an alignment, gender, ancestry, and like what kind of caster, and that is going to be like most powerful spellcaster and provider of plane shifts. And then the last one is probably like might even be like good aligned, and is like their description is probably Patriot and Captain of the Guards. And again, can have so let's see.
Oh, there's an idea that could be a retired pirate captain.
Could be a retired. So that's possible too. The person who's like the defender, who's more in between. Maybe it's a retired pirate who is now like neutral good instead of chaotic, or true neutral or something like that, and just wants to defend the place and let their kids have a place that's safe. So is a Gamayun. And I see he, him pronouns. So is a male Gamayun captain of the guard. So that sounds good there. So we have two Gamayuns. One for the sort of that one who is between both worlds and is not exactly the pirate, but is not exactly the merchants, but sees both sides of it and wants to defend the place. And one who's more like, anyone can hire me, I'm the spellcaster. That one is going to be not a Gamayun, probably. So we have two Gamayuns and two non-Gamayuns.
Yeah. Maybe
the spellcaster is an elf. Is an elf wizard.
Yeah, so she could be an elf wizard.
Yeah, let's do an elf wizard there. And for the pirate captain, let's do a non-binary Gamayun pirate captain, who is like the most influential and popular pirate captain. Sounds good. And then the last one can be the Archbanker. And Elftro, you came up with the Archbanker, so what are you thinking for gender and ancestry on the Archbanker? Putting you on the spot. And while we wait to see that, is there anything else we're missing here? I think we've got it. Alright, so a female Archbanker, because you're right. I think the one in War for the Crown is one of the only ones. And she may not even have the title of Archbanker. So we're going to go female. Is she human? Give us one human in here. So we could do female. Let's do
human.
Yeah, female human Archbanker. Perfect.
So female.
All right. Stump Monkey says maybe there's an Ayudara because they did have some that weren't just on the planet Golarion, and that could be part of how they're getting to the other planet.
Oh yeah, and that's how.
That's why it's a vacation spot.
There's also an Ayudara
nearby,
here.
Maybe because like having it happen exactly in the pocket.
Nearby.
The timing I think is off, but it's possible that it's close enough that you can use the air bubbles on the ship to get it to the Ayudara. There you go. So
that could allow for transportation to Castrovel as well.
And Wither King says, is the human Aslanti? They could be either Aslanti or from the Aslanti city, or it sounds like more likely these lawful people came in through the gateways and are part of the trading faction. So they could be from a lot of different places. They could be through the Ayudara, could be from Axis. There are just some humans living in Axis that are like not dead. They
but I mean, if an active Ayudara is nearby, then it could well be that this wizard is from Castrovel also.
Yes, the elf for sure might be from Castrovel. Humans are from Aslan. Elves are from Castrovel. They're just too different. All right.
Sounds good.
Makes me think, what if the retired pirate, who was kind of more neutral between things, and the elven wizard are in a relationship? Maybe the retired pirate, who has kids, because we said that is the case, but like, his wife died because she was an even more reckless pirate, and that's what sort of pulled him back, and that he also his heart was broken, but over time was in a relationship with this somewhat aloof and neutral elf.
Yeah, that could totally work.
Who knows? Anyway, that doesn't have to be in the settlement.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
All right. So we have everything we need for this settlement that we have created. It is certainly different. I never expected when we started this
that we were going to be making settlements on the moon using an RPG Superstar
ancestry that then just every time I read more about it, it was like, this makes more sense than the moment before.
At least throwing an Eldritch monster sealed under the city for good measures.
I think that there's already weird stuff sealed under the Aslanti city, so we probably shouldn't do that to every city on the moon. Otherwise, ours isn't going to be different from the one city that already
But
exists.
they can still deal with the Eldritch monster sealed under other places, and they still have those weird burrowing flying moonworms.
I think that ultimately there are the burrowing moons, but ultimately these pirates probably want a piece of the action with those dungeons that are under the other city.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Because there's supposedly secret treasures down there. So, who knows? And Stump Monkey says the moon is just a giant eldritch god egg anyway. Or maybe you're talking about Octurne. So, I think that's good.
Yeah, thanks for helping us build a fun settlement today.
So, let's say goodbye to YouTube. Farewell, YouTube.
Bye, YouTube.